You've got a real attitude problem, McFly. You're a slacker.
You wouldn't match. By any chance, would you?
Embrace the probability of your imminent death. And know, in your heart, that there's nothing I can do to save you.
Rick, where'd you get a hand grenade?
I don't know.
Good morning, Starshine. The Earth says hello.
Top news stories of the week. Time to find out once again with Megan Olson and News of the Week on The Al Travis Show.
It just never stops amazing me that you get into the doldrums of time, midsummer, and what are we going to talk about with Megan? Do not tell me on your bingo card, naked guy in the Capitol was going to take number one spot with a bullet. It had to, didn't it?
Yeah, it did that, and then Walz yesterday pausing, some housing stabilization payments. Those are kind of neck and neck, but that was yesterday's news. Over the weekend news definitely was this naked man in the Capitol, which it's a wild story even beyond that, because it took police officers 3 times of this man entering the Capitol and Capitol grounds for him to finally be arrested.
Let's tell this story. So the guy gets found naked in the Senate chamber, as I understand it, after hours on like Friday night. Obviously, surveillance cameras, somehow they figure out the guy's in there, so they go pick him up, and he's mumbling about being the governor or something. So they're like, this guy might not have everything going upstairs. Let's take him to Regents. Regent checks him out and says, yeah, seems fine by me. He just happens to be a naked guy thinking he's the governor in the state capitol. So they let him go. Where does a naked man go who thinks he's the governor?
Back to the Capitol. That's where he works.
So the police get him again. Take him back to Regents. They're like, no, seriously, this guy's missing a little something. Regents like, no, they're not. So he gets out. Third time, the police decide to pick him up and take him to jail because you know what? This is kind of a pain. Mm-hmm. They look him up. Wait, he's wanted for a warrant in Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. We're going to hang on to him.
They couldn't arrest him the first time because there were some warrant restrictions or something with Wisconsin where they didn't know it the first time and they couldn't arrest him. It's a weird turn of events.
Something weird's going on. You drive downtown St. Paul and you don't have the little light on your bumper that lights up your license. They'll pull you over. They'll ask your license. They're going to tell you, hey, we got to find out who you are. You might be doing something terrible. They're going to look you up. Mm-hmm. You can be naked guy in the Capitol, and they don't find out right away. And this guy, evidently, since he got that warrant in Wisconsin, he's been picked up 5 more times on little petty things already. The guy has got issues.
He needs help. Yeah. And
exactly.
He's not getting help. He's getting dismissed and overlooked. And Dispatch Audio also said that there was a mess near the Senate president's desk and there was flooding in a bathroom in the Capitol. They don't know if it's tied to this man, but weird, strange things were happening in the Capitol last Friday night and early Saturday morning.
Now we got to talk about a few things. First, Regents. I don't know what the level, and I'm not a doctor. Naked, thinking you're the governor, maybe you're drunk, maybe you're high. So I don't know. Maybe it's not a mental thing. But you got to hold him to find out, right? Get him off. I don't know what you got to do. They messed up. The cops messed up. Like, come on, check it. Hello, you give a guy 3 shots to go do the exact same thing. Now we'll take care of it. And the other thing is, I know it's the People's Building, Megan. But how can a naked guy get into the Capitol after hours?
Was he naked when he entered? That's what
we don't know this
either.
either.
Remove his clothes when he got in there? I don't know.
Back to, did someone I forgot to lock the door on my way out? Has it been open for the last 3 weeks?
And kind of in tandem with this story, a smaller story that I found that I'm anticipating is going to be gaining traction. KTTC did a really great investigative story about the Advisory Committee on Capitol Security. Everyone's talking about Capitol security right now. So, of course, we're going to be looking into this advisory committee. You've got the lieutenant governor on there. You've got a Minnesota Supreme Court justice, some senators, some state reps. They really are not doing what they're supposed to be doing. So it sounds like statutorily they're supposed to be meeting, I don't even know how many.
4 times. They're supposed to meet 4 times a year. And the most they made is 3 a couple years back. Last year it was once. Now you just had this whole thing go on with the shooting of Hoffmans and the Hortmans. That group hasn't gotten together, or maybe they're, watch this. They're going to find out they're the ones who left the door open. Oops. had the meeting, forgot to lock the door. They have now. Do you get paid if you're on those committees?
I'm not sure. Typically, I'm on an advisory committee through the state, and you do get per diem. I don't know about this one though, but you only get paid for your meetings. It's per diem, so it's per day, per meeting. You'd think if they were paid, they'd want to, meet their at least minimum requirements to collect a paycheck.
Well, my point is that you make it a state law, so a state law now forces 5 Joe Schmoes to come together. Well, then you got to pay them something. I don't know, but they aren't doing it. But it's back to, I don't know if I actually do want metal detectors at the Capitol. I thought when they did the big changeover.
Most state capitals have them.
Yeah.
So.
And again, I'm not saying I want them to stop letting you carry, but you come up to the radar gun, you tell the cop, I'm carrying.
You just want to know who is.
Whose got it is. So then, okay, Senator, carry your gun. We trust you. Naked guy with 5 felonies, maybe you don't get to come in. Mm-hmm. But I can't believe a human being can get it.
It's not unreasonable requests, and I obviously you've got the Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus and other pro-gun groups that think it's a little bit unreasonable. But given our current moment and everything that has unfolded this summer here in Minnesota, I think at a minimum that is a very reasonable thing. Most state capitals do it. It's declare if you have a weapon, whatever. Maybe lock the doors in the evening so naked men can't enter.
Well,
There's a couple of, I think, very common sense solutions to figuring out security problems at the Capitol.
And other things. I mean, I don't think this has to be a Tom Cruise movie, but they don't have like motion detectors in there that, you hit the little thing and then when something moves, someone crawls through a window, alarm goes off. How long was this guy in there? Long enough to possibly flood a bathroom and make a mess? And I had a senator on here. Would really like to know if her seat was sat on by a naked guy. Don't blame her. Are we disinfecting the whole...
The Clorox wipes, wiping that down.
Absolutely. Sorry, anyway. Not to make fun of it, but oh my God, that is just too weird. So that committee didn't meet, I presume, because the lieutenant governor was on there and she's running for governor. Mm-hmm. We're going to hear, or not governor, for a Senate. We are going to hear more about that. Somebody running against her is going to say, were you on this committee? Did you pledge you'd be there 4 times a year and you did not?
It's a small story. KTTC is a somewhat, it's not your like mainstream Minnesota media, but I'm surprised it hasn't caught up more speed yet. I do anticipate other outlets are going to start, doing FOIA requests, looking into this. I mean, statutorily, they're supposed to meet at a minimum 4 times a year, like you said, but annually they have to do a general assessment of security in the Capitol, the House, and the Senate. Explain any improvements and recommend future plans, all in the name of safety. So they met twice in 2019, 3 times during the pandemic, twice in 2022, and then in 2023, just 1 time. I have a feeling they're going to be meeting a lot more either the end of this year into 2026, just given everything that has unfolded.
It's one of those things where by law, the lieutenant governor's like, I got to get a group together. She goes talk to some buddies. Come on, get on this committee with me. Don't worry. It's not a big deal. We're not going to do much. We're not going to push the issue. Then the senators get shot. The House guy gets shot and killed. And a naked guy shows up. You're like, oops. Probably should have taken that a little more serious.
And it's bipartisan senators, bipartisan state representatives. So it's a little bit odd to me that, one side or the other isn't saying, why aren't we meeting? I mean, what do you even do when an advisory committee by law is required to meet X number of times and they don't? Are there repercussions? I don't know what that looks like.
I'd take their per diem away and it will go to break. We got 2 big stories we got to talk about. I know. I'm sure the Mitchell thing's coming up and we'll talk about also the governor, stopping the funding for some of the fraud. Like, ooh, brilliant idea. More right after this. Finally is exactly right. More right after this with Megan's News and Review.
Braver Angels Minnesota is part of a national movement that brings together conservatives, liberals, independents, and others to restore trust, respect, and goodwill in politics. We seek not to eliminate our differences, but rather deal with them head on, with respect and understanding. We do not try to change people's views, but how they view the other side. There will always be differences. Braver Angels Minnesota believes the best way forward is to change how we deal with those differences. Join the civil conversation at mn.braverangels.org.
Achieving your financial goals requires individual planning and a comprehensive approach. At Midwest Money Management, our mission is to provide you with the knowledge, tools, and confidence to feel comfortable financially today and secure about tomorrow. Learn more at MidwestMoneyManagement.com. That's MidwestMoneyManagement.com.
Securities offered through JW Cole Financial Inc., member FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services offered through JW Cole Advisors Inc., Midwest Money Management, and JW Cole Financial Inc. and JW Cole Advisors Inc. are unaffiliated entities.
A as in alligator. L also in alligator. But it's not alligator. It's the Al Travis Show.
Now, we've got her on the program, Megan's News in Review. Stunner, the governor, is going to stop paying people who are trying to rip us off. And said, but we'll probably get sued for it. I tell you, this fraud thing is a lucrative business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was an interesting story. Walz was at an unrelated event and reporters just started asking about fraud. And so all of a sudden he comes out and says, I'm going to stop payments to the 50 largest recipients of Medicaid funding under this housing stabilization program. And for context, this program was started in 2020. Minnesota was one of the early adopters of this. I believe it kind of came from the federal level, something the states were tasked with. It was estimated to cost about $2.5 million a year. By 2021, it cost $21 million, and last year it ballooned to almost $104 million. That is 40 times the original intended amount in 2020 in just 4 years.
And what I don't get when we do something like this, do we have 40 times as many homeless people? As I understand this program, Megan, you could sign up and say you will go find homeless people. You get $70 an hour, up to 150 hours, to discuss with homeless people how to become unhomeless, where to find stuff. Okay, Megan, you're a smart gal. Meet Homeless Al. Can you come up with more than maybe one or two different options that Al might have if I have no money? There's this program, that program. I'm sure the state's got a list. Could you talk to me for 150 hours about it?
Well, and that's the thing is it's not... this is a story, I mean, that's been developing for a long time. I think KSTP or another outlet did a big investigation a couple of months back. It's not real people. It is, nope. Well, it is real people, but they don't know that they're being exploited for this program. I think KSTP interviewed some guy and he was like, yeah, I see that they, claim me on, whatever form. I've never talked to these people. These people didn't help me, find a house after I came out of addiction recovery. I did that all on my own. But these other, nonprofits that are using this program and exploiting this program are also exploiting individuals by, stealing their name, their social, whatever, and counting them as part of their reimbursement. And that really is the sad problem of it all.
And you will find they're made up names as well. Don't give me this. This is the same as everything we've seen. But what gets me back to it, what do we believe is the homeless issue? How many? I throw 100,000, I throw it out there. Well, you just spent $200 million in the last 5 years to help the 100,000 where you might have actually just gave them a check. Guess what? Then go get homes. It's the craziness is that we have no accountability for this. One place I understand. Oh,
the other crazy thing about this story too is Walz didn't have this authority until now, and he knows that. He said, thanks to the legislature, now we've got some pretty good tools for me to be able to do this. Thank you, Republicans. This was really the House Republicans, the Senate Republicans establishing these fraud and ethics committees to try and root out some of these problems that kind of all started with Feeding Our Future when all that came out. But those are the tools now that Walz is using to pause these programs. And he's not saying that these programs are bad. He's just saying they're being exploited. I do think they provide, reasonable assistance to some folks. But when the government is giving away that much money, of course, there's people that are like, oh, it's like prairie dogging. You see someone, they're making money over there. Maybe I could do that too. And then you have all these nonprofits that are
prairie dogging. Is that a thing? I'm going to start using that. Prairie dogging. I like that. Here's one. Like, how do we not know? Feeding Our Futures. Can you feed 9,000 people a day from a 3rd-story apartment building with no food?
That's skill.
It is. Well, this group, there are 20 different businesses at one building doing this very same job. They all use the same address. I don't know who writes a check. Don't they have a software program? Hey, guess what? 25 checks a month are going to the same building. It doesn't take much. Let's send somebody out there and take a look. But we don't. And it's because we just don't care, Megan. It drives me crazy. Anyway, anything else we have to talk about today?
Last thing to touch on, we talked last week a little bit about Senator Mitchell. She was, found guilty, 2 counts of felony burglary. She was kind of extending her, when her departure would be from the Senate. She cited, has to finish up some constituent services, wrap some things up. She needs health insurance for her son. Well, now a week later, she's like, yeah, I'm done. I lied. I'm not doing the 2-week thing. She was out a week after this guilty conviction. So I think that's really good news for her to, stay in office another 2 weeks, collect another paycheck. Not really a good look. My thoughts are something was happening behind the scenes. Folks kind of told her, this really isn't good for us. It's not good for us as a party. You have to get out of there now. Now she finally is. So kind of accelerates the timeline for a special election. We know we've got Senator Bruce Anderson's seat that's going to be having a special election here soon too. But right now the DFL still holds the majority because of Senator Anderson's passing. So.
And that'll continue. Well, again, with Anderson passing, the numbers stay the same. They could do a special session to try to fix whatever they're claiming is happening with the big, beautiful bill, but I don't think they want to touch it. There's just too much stuff going on. Yeah.
Yeah. Too much government bureaucracy with all these special elections, which are very expensive.
And do you think that she really cares whether it hurts the Democrats or not? She stuck it out for 15 months knowing this was her defense.
And her political career is over. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't see that she cares that this somehow helps the Democrats out. I don't know what pushed her to say, okay, I think it's got to be neighbors and friends. Somebody just said, this looks horrible for you to take one more check.
It'll be interesting to see what names come out of that, Woodbury district. I don't think there's any clear front runners at this point, but there are some names being tossed around for Bruce Anderson's seat.
The Anderson seat is pretty safe. And you would think Woodbury would be, to say Democratic, as I think she won it by 17%. But you tell me, after a year and a half of what they've seen from the DFL, and I mean, from Mitchell herself, that doesn't wear a few points off. And I read that this might be the most expensive special election race ever held in Minnesota.
Even the more money than the one in Roseville, where the guy didn't even live in the district, because that was a pretty pricey one too.
Well, it was, but this is the point. And now I think, with the idea that the entire legislature revolves around that seat, and if it swoops over, the Republicans are in charge, I'll tell you what, I'll bet you every senator on each side will be knocking doors in that district personally to make this thing happen. They know how big a deal this is. You look at the last session, and how close this makes everything, and everybody has to toe every line, and there's no reason you can vote for anything unless we tell you to vote. They're going to work. This is going to be a lot of fun. You and I are going to have lots to talk about.
Hey, I love it. Normally our summers are pretty quiet. We talk about the weather sometimes, but now there's too much craziness. We got naked men in the Capitol and lots of special sessions or special elections. So it keeps things interesting on the show for the listeners. So.
On the bingo card, I did not have naked guy in the Capitol, but here I am talking with a nice young lady about that. It's a radio guy's dream. Got to fly, Megan. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Al. We will be back next week talking about the top Minnesota news stories of the week with Megan's News and Review on the Al Travis Show.